You're listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.
All right. Cynthia, thank you for coming to my house.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to talking to you.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So you are a self-help healer?
Well, I do inner healing, and that's working with the deeper aspects of ourselves to motivate ourselves to do something with our lives. So there is the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind, and the superconscious. That's all the different aspects of it.
Okay.
And so our conscious mind is the director. So that's one that tells us, okay, go here, do this. But the subconscious mind is a collection of thoughts that have gathered over time and get us into patterns. So we may have patterns and we don't understand what's going on with those. We could also
What are some
have
examples of that?
Fragmented parts of ourselves that say we're young and we're disciplined, and maybe some people run into trauma. Mm-hmm. They have abuse. The child cannot feel emotions, so those fragments get separated to deal with those issues. So you got issue over here, and then we get stuck in time. So we wonder, geez, I'm trying to accomplish my goal. I want to get ahead. I want to lose weight. I want this. I want that. And we don't understand why, but those deeper thoughts that we developed along the way are guiding the show. 95% of our thinking and our functioning comes from the subconscious mind and not the conscious. Okay, you want an example? I'll give you a good one. When we learn how to drive, as we go on learning, it becomes automatic. So let's say, have you ever driven home and you're really tired and it's kind of hard for you? You get home and go, oh my gosh, I don't even know how I got here because I was so tired.
Regularly.
It's the subconscious mind that takes over and is actually doing the driving.
That's interesting because there are times where I'll be driving home. That's a great example because I will have made it home and don't remember the drive at all. And now I know I had to have hit the brakes to brake for other drivers and things of that nature. So that's what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that can happen in our habits and our patterns. Well, when in inner healing, the work that I do, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christ healer, and I also work with Jesus to be able to provide healings for people. And it's a wonderful, wonderful experience because he is the master healer. And what we do is I explore. Let's say you have an issue. Then in this type work that I do, the way I do it, okay, so we talk about it, and if you wanted to explore it, then I'd say, well, close your eyes and go back to that situation, and then you'd tell me how old you are at the time, and most of the time you would be in childhood, something that happened in childhood. And so what happened was, that child, you had something happen and never got to represent yourself, never got to explain yourself. Life just goes on. Okay, we just get older and older. And what we do when we grow up a lot of times is we go back and talk about what happened to us, but we don't explain it. We don't heal it. We don't try to understand it. So if we were to go into an area that you wanted to explore and you said, well, I'm 8 years old, then we would talk to 8-year-old you and find out what happened that got him stuck there. And then in talking through that, I would walk you through the process. You would be your own observer. You would have a conversation with that younger part of you, and we would give them some notoriety. We would pay attention to them, and we would find out, well, I had this happen, and this is how I felt, and nobody paid attention to me, and I felt really bad, and, I cried a lot, or, whatever the issue was. Well, we would go through that, and then we would bring it to a place of completion. We would actually find resolution for 8-year-old you. And that would bring you to a place where you'd go, oh, wow, I can't believe this. This was holding me back, and I didn't even realize it. But being able to give some time and some love and some energy to that younger part of you that never got recognized, that's a game changer. It really helps.
That's very interesting because I have always said there's certain things that happen in your life, and possibly I'm wrong, but to me, I've always said, well, hey, put that in I always say the tough shit box. Put it away. Don't worry about it. It happened a long time ago. Move on. And I think there's those things, and you're hitting on it. They help dictate the adult we become. Mm-hmm. And when we don't address those issues, because we threw it in the tough shit box and we're not addressing them,
right,
it's almost like an anchor that we're dragging, I guess. And so if what you're saying is that we don't go and address those issues, mm-hmm. we can't get rid of that anchor. That's and help us grow. And that's very interesting because it contradicts what I thought for such a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's again because, like you're saying, we're growing up, we're going on with our life. Yeah, I had that experience, but it made me a better person or whatever. But that younger part of you needed validation and needed love and needed attention. And he'll literally sit there on the curb sulking. Is anybody going to listen to me? Am I going to get any time at all? Is somebody going to pay attention to me? And then we walk through all of that, and it creates a wonderful connection between you and the deeper parts of you that get on board and start moving in a positive direction, to the direction that you want to go, and give you more strength and give you more courage, give you more confidence, more self-esteem. And sometimes the issues could be based on maybe you're having a pain in a certain place. The body is always speaking
like
to us.
Physical pain.
Yep, physical pain. And we would start there. And I would ask you to close your eyes and go into that painful area. And I would think you would, most of the time, pull up a memory of something that your body was holding on to, and we would walk through resolution. Now, it's also common during a session that we would start with, let's say, for example, you at 8 years of age. We'll just use that as an example. And then I would ask you, is there anything else? So we might go back to younger or older parts of you that were also holding on to areas that needed to be cleared. And that would really open you up then. And you'd be surprised. Okay, so let me explain one thing. In the world of existence, we have an energy field around us, right? We have an energy field.
Is that the same as like an aura?
Well, they call it an aura, yeah. Everybody has it. I've even been in graduate school and had people talk philosophically about this energy field. And this is what I'm gonna digress.
Oh, go ahead.
This is what gets so hard during the COVID time, because they were telling people to be separate and not get closer than 6 feet. But actually, we need each other.
Sure we do.
Because it's herd immunity. And when we connect, pat on the shoulder, if we do that, then we are strengthening our own body to give us oxytocin, which is a hormone that comes up as a result of touch. Mm-hmm. Touch, okay. So,
my wife has a friend. Her name's Claudine, and I'm a hugger. My wife's a hugger. We like to hug. And there's some people that'll embrace, and it's a nice little hello. Claudine hugs you, and you feel as though she wants to be hugging you. It's a big hug. It's a big embrace. And you always end up letting go before she does. But I will tell you this, that it is a wonderful feeling, and we need that. We need that as human beings, that interaction and that feeling that we get from, embracing someone.
Absolutely. And that's what we're built for. We're built to connect. We're built to be there for each other. Like we talked about herd immunity, we benefit from each other. Children need to run around and play and be around each other. And I'm so glad where we live, they're not being restricted to go back to school because they have this really strong immunities. And the strong immunity can carry us way, way, way down the road to staying healthy. And if we're exposed to germs, it actually gives our immunity a chance to work. It's when we're pulled back and said, no, sit, be careful, wash your hands all the time, do all these things all the time, wear a mask, that we're cutting off that potential for benefiting from interaction. So we go back to the energy field around our body. Okay, so if we look at our bodies, we have physical body, emotional bodies, mental bodies, spiritual bodies, all aspects of us. And when we have an issue, like an emotional hurt or a mental issue, if we have that, we're getting a warning from our body, something's going on and we need to heal that. When we don't and we let it go, it comes into our energy field and winds up in our physical body as saying, now you really have a problem. Now you really need to get in here and do something. And if we don't, and we just simply try to medicate it or, get some help with it, we're going to have an ongoing issue. So it's always best to face our issues. It's always best to confront them, deal with them, and keep ourselves strong.
So let me ask you this: when somebody, first of all, I think it takes somebody a lot of strength to say, hey, I recognize I have an issue that I haven't been dealing with in, let's say, 30, 40 years, and to seek help for that. Is there ever a chance, and I would imagine it would happen a lot, where for somebody to move on past that and address any issue they may have had when they were younger, does it require, if it had an interaction to do with, let's say, a father or a mother or a cousin or a best friend, do you ever have to bring that other person into that healing to make that opportunity for healing, or is it something somebody can address on their own and move forward with?
It could go in a variety of ways, but when we're talking in the session and we're going into the memory, then the individual who's being healed is going to go straight to that scene, and they're going to be bringing up the offender. They're going to be bringing up what was said, and they're going to be dealing with it as if it happened. It in the mind of that younger part of us is happening today. That's why it's an issue. And so when we go back and we say, well, what was going on here? Well, my mom said this, or my dad said this, or, I wanted to go do something and I was told no, over and over and over again. And it's all there, and we need to work through that. I worked on a woman that she figured there was no way I was ever going to come up with anything. And leading her long enough, all of a sudden she walked through an experience she had with her grandparents. And then she said, oh my goodness, she said, I just see this. Look, I thought he felt this way. And he really felt another way. And clearing all that up, she went, aha, she had an aha moment. So it's amazing, and it can vary. It can vary. Every person's experience is individual. And so that's the healing work that I do. Well, working with Jesus Christ in the inner aspects of it, he is the master healer. And what I do is I will discuss the scene, and then I when I feel that Jesus is in the room with us, I will explain that. And then he and I will walk them through the rest of the healing aspect of it. And he is the master healer, and so he'll walk through that with me and with the person and verify the healing and bring it about.
So do you guys open up with prayer to kind of, I guess, set the tone or to invite God and Jesus into into the situation, or how do you do that? Do you open up with a certain prayer, or is there something that you guys do during the session?
Actually, I haven't yet, but because I've been working with Jesus so long, and He wants us all to heal, and He wants us to be well, and so it's making them aware and knowing that He will come into the experience. And, if they have a problem with that, then we can just do the regular type of work. But people are actually delighted to know that our Savior is there and cares about us and wants us to heal and be well. Now, in the traditional healing, this is a therapy. In the traditional type of therapy, the person is going into the negative memories and clearing those. In other types of approaches, Christ will say, bring up a positive memory and work with that too. What's going on? Well, the back of the head is the reptilian, mammalian, older portion of the brain, and that's where we're storing those negative memory experiences. But in the positive memories, we are right up here in the prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal cortex is responsible for the reasoning and the personality parts of ourselves. So again, if we have a child, children believe everything they're told up until about the age of 7. They believe it if it's actually true, because they don't have a filter in their prefrontal cortex to say, well, no, that's not right, or this is right. No, it's everybody's telling me everything. This must be true. I must be what they say I am. And so that's another reason these little splintered parts of us develop and remain unhealed until we deal with them. So there's all sorts of ways to come to the healing process. There's really no set stone in it. And what I like about this process, too, is I can use it myself. And I can walk through the process, and I've done some amazing changing over the years. My father was an alcoholic, and I was his target child. And so there was a lot of pain there that I needed to heal and work through. And then I always tell people, too, about the physical pain I went through in the 2 automobile accidents I was in. I don't go into great detail, but I broke bones, and I was, they were severe accidents. Wow. And that brings up a lot of feelings, that needed to be worked on and straightened out. So yeah.
Was there somebody that helped you heal from those things that had happened to you in the past, or was it something that you came across yourself and all of a sudden you had an aha moment that this actually works, and it just maybe it was something God gave you, or maybe it was something that you just all of a sudden the switch turned on, which very rarely does a switch ever turn on its own. Usually I like to think God's got a hand in it. So
yeah, I started getting interested in training because I in the business world I was in marketing, but I was always interested in healing. That was my passion, and I'd always go around and talk to people and say, well, you're feeling this way, try this, or try this. It was always, that was my passion. So I decided to get more completely into it, and I studied energy healing. And the energy healing, then I volunteered with an organization called Vet Trip. Have you heard of them?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Vet Trip was designed as has an integrative immersion process for working with veterans with PTSD and chronic pain. And through a series of sessions, usually I'm going to say around 5 or less, they come in and they immerse themselves through this whole process. And it's helped many, many veterans to be able to regain their lives. And it's right here in San Antonio. Okay. So I did that for quite some time.
Is it part of the VA, or is it off-site or somewhere?
It's separate. It's a separate nonprofit agency. And just like you and me, they have a Facebook page that gives a lot of information about what they do. But
and it's called Vet Trip.
Vet, VETTRIIP.
TRIIP. Okay.
And the reason, is because of the integrative immersion process. So I did that work. I was with an energy healer who would bring them in, relax them, and then the massage therapist and I worked together. And then we stepped away, and they had a chiropractic experience, and then they had acupuncture if they chose.
Oh, wow.
So they were on the table for about 2 hours, and immersing like that really helped them. Many of them that didn't think they could ever get their life back did.
Wow, that's a lot of work that happens, I guess, in 2 hours.
Yeah, it really was. And it's a very good program, so I endorse it. So I did that for a long time, and then I wanted to get more deeply into this process because I can really help anybody. I can talk to them over the phone. I don't have to see them in person. So I could help people on a much broader basis, and that's what I've been doing with this.
Okay.
I also speak and teach classes. I do training on soft topics like giving thanks, loving yourself, mindfully reducing stress, conscious breathing, all those softer skills that actually help us be better at life and be better at work and be better in play, because when we're coming from those places, instead of feeling like I have to run around and take all these technical skills so I can learn to be stronger at the job, when we can learn to give thanks and really, really feel it, it opens up a whole world to us because there's always something to give thanks for. Sure. And it puts us in an appreciative mood. We recognize all that we're given. We see it in the world, and it's totally, totally wonderful.
You know, it's interesting because it seems like, especially the people I grew up with, they're going to listen to this, but, you know, the mentality is always to suppress something. You know, don't worry about it, move on. It's going to make you stronger, keep going. And I guess to a certain extent it does, because it kind of gives you a little bit more of a tougher exterior, I guess, to a certain degree. But I guess had we spent more time addressing things that were holding us back, we could have, I say could have, but we could progress a lot farther than what we were allowing ourselves to. So it's very interesting because not a lot of people look at it that way. A lot of people look at it as, I'm just being, I'm being soft. I need to get stronger. I need to harden up, and there's times for that, I guess. But you still need to fix the issues that are, again, back to the dragon and anchor mentality. We could move a lot farther down the road and be a lot better human being if we let go of some of that stuff. That's interesting. I know, and I like talking to groups, and I'm going to be talking to this woman who has Key Co-working. She invited me to talk about gratitude in the workplace. Okay, so let's go into the workplace. Everybody likes to be thanked for what they've done, so they feel like they're making a contribution. Most people like that. But if you look statistically at it, hardly anybody ever takes the time to say thank you for what you're doing. We toughen up, and then we go and keep doing our job and keep working really hard. But that little pat on the back, that little piece of recognition helps us shine and feel valued. When we feel valued, wow, the whole world is changing. And so we have to start with ourselves and then give it to other people, because other people are a mirror of us. So if I tell you how great you are, chances of you telling somebody else what a great job they did and how wonderful they were and how they helped you, it's a ripple effect. It's going to go and go and go everywhere. So when I go into the grocery store, I like to engage with the clerks and speak to them, tell them thank you, and really appreciate them, because, they've been standing on their feet all day long and Sure.
they get tired. And it really helps me engage with them. So it's always good to be friendly, to look in someone's eyes, to say thank you. And that is a blessing to that person. And then when we get so excited about that and we keep going, it grows and grows and grows, and it begins to change things, and it begins to change the way our life goes and approaches that come to us. When Mom and I are at the house, we always talk about how blessed we are. We're speaking these words. Well, if I say I'm a certain thing, what do? I focus on it, and then I start looking for evidence because I believe it's so. So sometimes we have to speak before we get to that believing point to make it happen, but it will come. It will come.
I think those positive interactions are something that are really important, and when sometimes people can hear that and maybe scoff at it or whatever, but when you look at the opposite of that, let's say you're in traffic and somebody cuts you off or gets into your lane and slams on the brakes, it instantly puts you in a bad mood, and then you may just start driving like an idiot, and then all of a sudden you may have cut somebody else off. And it's like just as easy as that negative, aggressive mentality can spread, so can having a good attitude and a good mentality and sharing that with other people. You may hold the door open for somebody and they may hold the door open for somebody else, or pick up their keys if they drop them, reaching in their pockets and things like that. It's just little things that I think that we don't pay attention to. This is there's not always and always, and there's never and never. But I grew up in a small town, and my wife grew up in San Antonio. And whenever she goes with me to George West, the smaller communities, I always tell people, you're constantly seeing the same people every day. So you tend to, not always, but you tend to treat people with a little bit more respect because you're going to see them again tomorrow. And so you see a lot of the yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, holding the doors kind of thing. And it happens up here too. It's just there's a lot more people, so there's a lot more people that want to be less friendly, I guess. But little steps, I guess, that we can take every day. First thing in the morning, not driving like an idiot. That affects somebody's entire day because, when you get back in the office and maybe you're a little late, you're frustrated from the drive. All of a sudden things are piling up and you snap at another employee, and guess what? It's infectious and it takes off. So
yeah, it definitely can. And what I also like to do too, because I have the Heart Song Healing Wellness Tips, is my alternative wellness page. So I write about wellness and I write about all aspects. But then I also have Developing an Attitude of Gratitude Facebook page, and I write about something I'm grateful about every day. And I also, in the wellness tips, what I'll do is sometimes write about gratitude, and then I go in and look for evidence of how it affects our life. So, we feel physically better, we feel emotionally better, we're happier, we're brighter at what we do, we're more expectant. But it has an overall effect on us. Even these soft topics like peace and love and joy, all these wonderful things are the way to go, because if you take your intelligence and then you take your softer skills and put them together, then you're going to go forward up that ladder because you are recognizing people. And then you could bring in the intelligence with that, and there you are. You're opening all sorts of doors. I've seen different management styles, and you're right. I've worked at places where I'm sure the manager of the department was maybe under some scrutiny, and it filters down. It affects people's attitudes and their attitude toward their job, and whether how much they want to really be there. It turns into, well, hey, am I just doing my job to get a paycheck, or am I here because I enjoy what I'm doing and I care about what I'm doing? And both of those show in performance. It really does. Yes, absolutely. So I do the healing work, and then I teach the classes and speak. I also... When's your next class? I actually will go to a group and put something on when they ask me to come. So it's more like, like I'm going to go at the end of the month to this key co-working, and it'll be online, but I'll still be presenting gratitude in the workplace. Oh, gotcha. So I also have been doing women's retreats. Oh, okay. And women's relaxation retreats. So in 2019, we did one that was physical. We went over to the Incarnate Word Retirement Village, and had a real nice environment and a great turnout.
How long do those typically last? Are they a weekend kind of thing, or?
We did a half day, and we did it Saturday morning, like come around 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, register, start off with a little exercise, and have various types of classes. And then we had breakfast, and then a break in the afternoon with some food while they heard me talk about one of my courses, one of my topics. And that particular one was about the importance of loving ourselves. I always say the importance of loving ourselves is so great because it's like putting on your own oxygen mask first. When we love ourselves, and we radiate that love out to other people, and it builds a strong network. And that's what my whole thing is about. It's about building a strong foundation of who we are and understanding it's healthy to love ourselves and how to do it successfully so we can turn around and spread that same love to other people, so that we can be there for them and build those bonding relationships. So it's not about keeping it inside. It's about saying, hey, I am worthy of love. Now I understand. Now I can share. Now I can give it to other people. Instead of saying, well, I did this for you. You ought to pay me back. And if you don't pay me back, then I'm going to avoid you. I don't want to have anything to do with you. No, It's not about that. It's about treating people respectfully and caring for them. And so we had a blast with that. Well, then last year we had COVID, so I did something online. So what I hope to do with the next one is to be able to hold it in the Hill Country, a nice Hill Country location, and hold it in April of 2022, so that we have plenty of time to, get women to come and enjoy themselves. So,
do you find when you have those, are the majority of the women who attend, do you find that they're in a good place, or is it most of them not loving themselves the way they should?
There's a big mix, because the first focus that we did was for caregivers, women who are caregiving, because
caregiving is, real quick, I'm not to interrupt you, but it's funny because every night I say my prayers, and I always say, help those sick and suffering, and give their caregivers the strength to endure. Because caregiving it's very tough. Especially depending on who they're caring for, any medical issues they may have. It's tough, and I don't want to say thankless, because the person being cared for is very thankful, but it's something that people ignore, and people don't look that is a very important job, and it takes a lot of love to do it, and it's very stressful.
Yes, absolutely. I know I'm on some caregiving committees, and so it was an opportunity, because we encourage them, well, just find somebody in the family or a friend that'll come over for, just give you a half a day and let you get away and come over and visit and mix it up, and make those good connections. So we've done that, and we've had good responses. It's not limited to people who are caregiving, but it really does give them a break and give them some skills that they can take back and be more successful their own selves whenever they're back in the mix and trying to figure it out. So I like all the different opportunities I give to people, because what I'm helping people do is heal at different levels. You said, no, not everybody wants to maybe be down at the level of talking about nutrition and wellness, but they might have some trauma they want to work through at the higher level. But then over with the class, they can kind of just get in there and learn in a more of a objective way. And what I do in my classes, I always like to make them interactive. And so I'll give them activities to do so that they are participating, and that anchors the learning. Not just going and, how it is when you're getting a training and they zap the training at you, and then later okay, they gave me a book and stuff, but I have to open the book to figure out what I'm supposed to do. So I like to anchor it.
Yeah, I think when people are going through training like that, and they can actually put their hands on something and be, whether it's a mock experience, it gives them an opportunity to say, oh, this is what that will feel like when I'm in that position. So yeah, that's very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. So if they come to my class, they get They're going to get prepared to roll up their sleeves and get involved.
How many years have you been doing this in total?
Let's see. In 2015 is when I really decided to get serious about it. I was doing things here and there everywhere, but I opened up my own practice. With Vet Trip, I was there from 2014 to 2015.
Okay.
And so I would, speak and do things around the experience. So, yeah, it's been a little while. It's been really enjoyable.
What's been I'm sure it's all fulfilling, but what are some of the events that you put on that have been the most, that maybe you get something out of, as opposed to just teaching to other people? Is there experience that you have with people that you feed off of as well?
Well, I think the whole thing helps me, everything that I do, because I get to see people succeed and be happy. I get to see people change, and maybe they didn't realize that it was important to take certain vitamins or to add certain foods to their diet, and then they learn and they start feeling better, and that changes their life. Or they clear up an area that was holding them back, and then they're better able to function and actually enjoy life more. The training, I like it all.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And important this year on my talk for 2022, my talk is going to be about living joyfully, because that's important too.
Yeah. I think especially after 2020 and it's the way this year seems to be heading, as far as like a possible restriction and things, it's very, we're not made to stay home and stay away from each other, So I think that being able to address things like that through your classes and seminars, is huge for people, because that's where the depression comes in. Yeah. And that's, I guess, when you start neglecting these things and you don't address them, and you don't, whether it's the nutrition or whether it's the being able to communicate about experiences and things of that nature, the end game of that is the depression, and once you get in, I'm sure I get depressed. I like to call it blue, because I never really stay there very long, which is very good for me, because I don't want to stay there very long. But a lot of people, when they don't have an outlet and they don't have an opportunity to speak to somebody like you, or even just a good friend, or have an interaction in the living room and see how things have been going, some people can get stuck in depression, and it's more difficult for some people to get out than others. So that's good to be able to have something like what you're providing.
Well, thank you. Also, it's really simple. When being younger, and I used to have a lot of headaches. And it was very,
like migraines, or just?
No, not really, but just, pain off and on, just a lot. They happen quite often. And so I walked around with my little pill case, and I had the Excedrin in there, and the different pain that I would take those. Well, over the years, when I started learning that I could carry a little bottle of lavender essential oil with me. And then when I had a headache, I would just rub a little in my hand and tap, tap, tap it where the pain was. In about, 3 minutes or so, the pain goes away.
Oh, really?
And the difference is on taking the pills and versus using the essential oil was that essential oil lasted a long time, and it really solved the pain, where the pills wear off and then you got to take them again, and all that. So that's been some of the joy of learning about how I could naturally take care of my health instead of following traditional methods.
We didn't get heavy into the essential oils. We do have a few. We have some lavender. I love the peppermint, because we talked about my allergies and being congested, and when it's hard to breathe sometimes, just a couple of dabs in the mustache soaks it up, and it really clears me up. My wife's been taking, and I don't know what it is, somebody gave it to her. It's essential oil mix of, I don't even know what it is, but she puts it on her under her tongue, I guess, for heartburn, and she swears by it. She said it works quick, it gets rid of it. It's faster and longer than Tums or anything else like that. So the stuff works. But again, you have to come across somebody that is knowledgeable in that, because that type of information, you watch TV and it tells you about the next medication, every commercial series, and so to be exposed to something like that, and there's it'd be nice if there was a wider, I guess, swath of people talking about things like that. Something other than a pill or a pharmaceutical that's going to help you feel better, because there are things out there.
Yeah.
We're just not aware of them.
Well, as a society, back before we had modern times, everybody was using natural alternative healing methods because that's what they had. And they were working very effectively, like drink this tea. When a person, his stomach's upset, drink some ginger peach tea, because ginger and peach solve those stomach problems. Okay, so you talked about peppermint. You can also rub a little peppermint on the areas for stomach problems too, because that solves it. Okay, so as we went along in life, and then we started getting, the modern allopathic remedies, we got away from those natural things, but they're still there. They're quietly there, and they're very, very helpful. They do, like I say, fill in the gaps for somebody who, yes, you're going to your doctor, but you also want to say, this is something I can do and give myself relief maybe before I'm able to go to the doctor, And so there's a place for both of them, I think.
It's funny because oftentimes I'll see commercials and something on TV, and I think about it, and it's like, you talked about people using essential oils before we got to this point where with pharmaceuticals. And it wasn't that long ago. Was it 100, 140 years ago where most people probably did this? I saw a commercial about, I think it was, what was it? Like climate change. And they were talking about, growing your own food or raising your own livestock. And it's like, a lot of people do that, but that's the way things were done almost 100 years ago. And literally a generation and a half, 2 generations. And it's almost like we've completely abandoned all of that. And it's kind of scary. I kind of wish that we didn't. Growing up in a small town, like I told you earlier, we ate a lot of deer, pork, fish, things that you hunted for, and or people would share, whatever game they harvested. And that's the way it was. And now, with last year, things shutting down, it's scary to see that, very quickly, it can be hard to get groceries. It can be hard to feed your family. It can be hard to find medication,
Right.
So to be able to know these little remedies, you'd mentioned about the lemon water the other day, and I bought some lemons and been drinking it. So we need to re-educate ourselves on certain aspects and certain things that'll benefit us, But I don't know. I kind of went off on a tangent,
But I think that's good, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So if you had a doctor's appointment and you were feeling a little concerned about how you were going to make it till the time you could get there, and you could do a little something in between that helped you, and it was good for you, that just kind of bridges the gap for you, makes it a little nicer. But I do want to clarify one thing. On essential oils, it's very important to read the bottle, because some you can only use topically. Others you can use orally, and it's very important to know the difference.
I see.
So I always tell them, get organic sources if you can, and read the labels. Those are very important things to do.
Okay. What brand do you recommend, essential oil wise?
We don't really recommend the brand because that's really for a person's choice. But there is a difference. Like some oils, you have no problem. You can take them in orally, like your wife is using them, and she's having no problem. But others, you don't want to do that. You want to just use them topically, and they soak into the skin. This is our body's biggest organ, is our skin. So, we're able to get a lot of help just from doing that.
So let me ask you this: on top of everything else you do, when are you going to do home remedies? We need to see a YouTube page out of you for home remedies. I guess with the internet, people can research that stuff. It's just not I wish it was more in our face than what it is. You know, like I talked about the medications and the commercials and seeing that all the time. I wish it was in our face just as much as that kind of stuff was, because it's important to learn about that stuff. You know, it may be able to benefit you without all the 2,000 side effects you see on the commercial of the TV. The side effects sometimes seem worse than what your ailment is. So we were talking about that the other day as well.
I tell people, okay, I told Mom, I said, look, the next time a commercial comes on, I said, close your eyes and listen to the side effects. Mm-hmm. When we close our eyes, we get away from distraction on the screen, and then we really hear them and go, oh, my goodness.
Sure.
No, I don't think so. I'm going to try something different.
Or even when they run them up on the TV screen, and it literally goes from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen, and they're still putting more out there. It's a nightmare.
Well, there's always other choices. That's true. And if people want to, my page, Heart Song Healing Wellness Tips, is just free and available for anybody that wants to join. So there's no problem with that. The Attitude of Gratitude page, sure, they can join in. They can find me on my website, and I'm sure we'll share that information later.
Yes,
so,
yeah. I was going to ask you, do you ever collaborate still with other people like you did for the vets?
We've done some of that. Bill and I talked about some collaboration where...
I love Bill.
I know.
Bill's great.
Yeah, he's a sweetie. Where we would go and do a presentation and then each talk on a different topic and kind of blend it in. And I have wanted to do some of that, yeah. I think right now some people that are speaking are finding ways to do that through Zoom a lot, and because we're freer here in Texas, but not every state is that free.
Sure.
So there's a variety there. But yeah, I'm totally into that. I'd totally love to do that.
That's awesome. Have you ever dealt with... have you ever been in a position where maybe somebody struggled to get through some things that they've been dealing with?
Everybody is going to have those issues from time. It just depends on how deep do they want to go into the situation, how much do they want to share. Working with some of the veterans, we'd find that the way they were trained, they would keep things very quiet, and they were taught to be self-reliant. So getting them over the time that they came, then they would begin to relax a little more and a little more and a little more, and that's when they would really open up and receive by being able to relax. So it just depends on the person.
So sometimes multiple sessions. I think some people fear that they're unfixable, so to speak, and I think it's important that people understand that there are solutions and resolutions. It may take more maybe more sessions or just more exposure to the trainings and the learning. That way they can open themselves up. I think that a lot of times that people kind of I don't know, treat themselves worse than what they should, and they need to realize that there's nothing wrong with them. They just need to maybe focus a little bit more on what the issues might be and try and remedy them. Don't want anybody losing hope. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And also another point to make, so people will realize, we don't go heavy into sorrow in this therapy. Okay. That is not what we're trying to do. We definitely keep it higher and just getting into the issue and giving that aspect of ourselves recognition. And so people don't have to be afraid to explore their issues, because if I find they're getting emotional, then I'm pulling them up and pulling them back to a place where they won't get lost in the sorrow of the experience, and they will have a higher experience and still have the same release.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's not something they have to be afraid of.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people do is they're I don't want to say that we're intimidated, but they're worried about the feelings that they'll feel when they get in too deep, and knowing that they don't have to get in that deep into the sorrow to address the issues is gonna probably be something that maybe will turn people on to it more and be a little bit more receptive to what you provide. That's awesome.
So yeah, it's very doable and very helpful. Awesome. And it's not necessarily going to be that the person has to be in continual therapy. You know, I'm somewhere between a coach and it's a therapeutic coaching time of healing approach. So, yeah, it's very positive and supportive.
Well, I think the probably what a huge part of that is you guys, similar to like what Bill would do, you know, you guys provide a service to people to give them the tools to not need you in the future, I guess, you know, and because to ultimately heal, I would imagine it'd be something where they need the tools that you guys can teach them to go day to day. You know, because it's for some people it's a big struggle, you know, and to be able to say, well, I've learned something from Cynthia or from Bill or from somebody that I can apply every day to get started and use it every day, you know, to keep them from getting too deep into depression or their sadness or frustration or anger, because they may be taking it out on a kid, on their children or their wife or their husband, or, you know, and then that just kind of feeds into generational issues, I guess.
Sure. And one of the things in the classes that I do, what I do with them is we really talk about thank you a lot at the end. And so I have people pair up at the end of the classes, and I have them take turns. You know, the first person will look at the other person in the eyes, and they will say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then the other person pays it back to them. And then they'll open up and they start talking. They're smiling and they're laughing because they really get in the eyes of the soul. You really get in deep and appreciate each other. And that truly helps. So just looking in the mirror at night before you go to sleep and look into your eyes. It may be difficult at first, but if you keep with it, you'll be able to do it. Say thank you, thank you, thank you, and really mean it. And it'll start giving you a stronger sense of, wow, I am doing something and I am appreciating myself. So,
you know what I would imagine too is, I told Bill this. I keep bringing Bill up because you and Bill are friends, and that's how I met you. But I always half joke and I say, for being fat and unattractive, I have way too much self-esteem. But one thing that I do, and I've told other friends of mine, I'm like, I will look in the mirror and I will find the best part of me, and I will think to myself that, man, you're a handsome guy, you know? And this sounds very silly. My sister's going to make fun of me when she hears this, but I will even just smile at myself in the mirror.
good.
And it's funny because it just makes you feel good.
Yes.
It just makes you feel good. And even when you were sitting here talking just a second ago and saying thank you, thank you, thank you, granted me, you're telling me about a process that you're having people do. But even just hearing that put a smile on my face.
Good deal.
You know, and it kind of sounds, you know, a lot of people say, wow, I'm not going to do that. But try it. See how it makes you feel. You know, it may change something, and it may influence the way you're going to treat somebody when you walk out the door here in about 15, 20 minutes. You know, do it in the car. If you're gonna go into some situation, you're gonna talk to your boss, or you're gonna go to a doctor's appointment you're not happy about, look in the rearview mirror and smile at yourself. You know, it really does help. So.
It does. Good. You already went over. That's good. Good.
Way too much self-esteem, trust me.
No, you can never have too much. I'm glad to hear that.
So what deals do you have for me? Anything you want to talk about? We're pushing about an hour.
I think we're doing good, and just give a chance to share my information if anybody wants to reach out to me. Yeah,
tell us all of it.
So you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
Cynthia Hazel for all those names?
Different names, but if you start off going to my website, then it'll give people the connections because they can go on to my account from there.
And the website is?
heartsonghealingplace.com.
Okay.
heartsonghealingplace.com. And then my phone number is on there too if they want to reach out to me by phone, and I would love to visit with them and encourage them and maybe even be able to help some people.
And are your tips on the same website, or is that a different website?
The pages that I've talked to you about are on the Facebook page.
Okay.
And I saw you have a podcast page on Facebook. Yes. So, and then I have a business page, Heart Song Healing Place, also on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I thank you so much for coming by. I had a lot of fun. And I hope people look you up and check you out. And don't forget to look in the mirror and smile.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you for coming, Cynthia. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.